the youth towards the future's work and the needs of the country as well. And sports, and especially the youth will have our national strategy for the youth to release and to have the use and the power of the youth to use them actually for the present and for the futures and whole activities and the whole planning as per the national strategy of Egypt, like Egypt 2030, for instance. So we have 9 pillars and 9 pillars. It's giving and serve 4 targets, and the 9 pillars that we have KPIs, initiatives, and most of the futures skills and futures job actually based on the technology. Based on the technology is the language of the present and even the future and opportunity of the futures as well. Because of that, we cooperate with the ministries, the whole ministries in Egypt, like Ministry of Technology and Communications, with the universities in Egypt, and even with the international base of technology to create the platforms everywhere and using the language of technology, but we insist to start with the educations. Educations starting from the very early, because we do have 2 kinds of educations. The basic educations with the curriculums based on the schools and the university, because we have a lot of base, like the innovation centers. We do have 11 big innovation centers in the country. As well, we have 5,000 of the youth sectors in that one. So we are using our facilities to educate and equal educations and innovation centers.
Some of these youths have very big creative ideas, but they don't have collateral because they're just young. So that's what I'm going to ask Mr. Ntlanhlanene about the issue of financing and funding. Where do you think the youth will be able to find the right financing? What are the options they have? Should they lean on the governments or the sovereigns, for example? Can the banks help?
Discussing a very important point with regards to leveraging the creative power of African youth for economic transformation. And you correctly point out that in order for that to succeed, this needs to be funded, it needs to be properly, you need to build the requisite capacity. But more than that, we also need political will and understanding of this, of the youth of our time. You couldn't have chosen a better, topic for today's discussions, because as you know that when we talk about the implementation of the AFCFTA, it is looking into the future more than anything, and the future belongs to the youth. And if you do not, empower them to be able to, be the leaders in determining their own destiny, we will not succeed. Firstly, the reason why investing in youth is so important in deploying resources in that space is precisely because of the challenges that have been raised in most of the speakers have spoken about how Africa has got the most youthful population globally, and also that this youthful population has no option but to turn to entrepreneurship, and also that the continent has the lowest economic integration, and that Africa stands at the cusp of a digital transformation. Now, if we take that into account, as in my capacity as the chair of the advisory board of Africa 5.0, one of the things that we think need to be done is to address the gap in technology and creative actor investment through effective communication, allowing the youth to tell their stories. And in order for them to do that, you do need to create a platform, and a platform should be located at where you would find them. Perhaps what is not happening enough is allowing the youth themselves, and I think I would need to half my age to qualify to speak on behalf of the youth. And as they would say, nothing about us without us. So we also need to make them part of even our putting together our processes that would focus on putting funding in order for them to really fly.
I'm going to ask the Honorable Minister for Information, Culture, and Youth for Nigeria, Lai Mohammed. Thank you very much for coming through. When you talk about the Nigerian experience in terms of the conversation in leveraging the creative power of youths, tell me a little bit about the Nigeria's experience in recent years. That's what I want you to speak to first.
I think Nigeria experience in the creative industry, especially with the youth, is quite interesting. We have a youth population of about 52 million people in Nigeria. I'm talking about young men between the ages of 18 and 35. And this is the age group of most of our practitioners. They be musicians, film producers, fashion designers, photographers, and the like. And this is a huge number. And not only are they huge, they also have very huge potentials. Now, our last record shows that we have over 204 million active internet users, about 33 million active social media users, and the significant thing about the youth and the creative sector in Nigeria is that most of the growth of the industry in Nigeria has been as a result more of the grit and hard work of the individuals involved in this industry, not so much as the institutional support they've received. This is one area, and I think it's not unique to Nigeria. I think it's all of Africa. We're actually chasing, our youth in the area of entrepreneurship, in music, in the film industry, in gastronomy, or in fashion. But what is important, I think, for us, all over in Africa in particular, is that governments all across the continent must make conscious efforts to evolve policies and programs that will address the challenges of the youth in actualizing their potentials. I think one of the challenges which we have just discussed now is the issue of financing. The truth of the matter is that all the conventional financing system will not help the African youth in the creative industry to grow. We must, I think, be more creative. The kind of finance that an industrialist will need is not the kind of finance that a creative industry person will need. For instance, how do you expect a young man straight from university to provide collaterals in terms of probably real estate, houses, and the like? They cannot do it. But I think we need to look rather at the area of venture capital, because in the creative industry, you need financing a capital which is patient, not 3 years, not 4 years, not 5 years. And it should not be the kind of capital that you need me to bring landed property. On the other hand, what will guarantee that kind of capital probably be effective management. So there should be a marriage between the talents and the venture capital, where the venture capital will provide the finances needed on long term, but to guarantee also that that finance is not filtered away. They also provide very good management. Another area where I think we have challenges, and that probably is not limited to Nigeria, is in the area of skill set. Nigeria, like most African countries, is a country of stories, is a country of folklores, and we can really leverage on these folklores and these stories to create content. Contents abound in Africa. What we lack is the skill set, and how do we monetize these skills, this content. For instance, we all know how much Harry Potter has made, and the author of Harry Potter has made over, a theme around witchcraft. I mean, witchcraft is a story in Africa that, in Africa, witchcraft is not a myth. We live it every day. So you can imagine if we had been able to monetize this kind of folklore and story, we would be able to make more money for our younger.
You mean folklore around the tortoise and the air?
And here, yes, which abounds, across
that resonates
across Africa.
What needs to change in terms of education, professional training, and what have you, so that we can move from where we are right now and put the knowledge and skills and training together for them to move from the point of just being creative content developer. They can go into high-level technology. We talk about virtual reality. Can they create equipment? Can they build laptops? Can they put together the kind of technology goods that we can export out of the continent?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you for having me. Actually, the education, I'll speak from the higher education perspective here, if I may, because we're speaking today about the leveraging the youth capacity for creativity and capabilities. And you're speaking about youth, we have to always remember that Africa is the youngest continent in the world. We have, as we were speaking with our colleagues just before coming here, that we're about 55 to 60% of the African population is below the age of 24, 25. 40% below the age of 15, and I would consider them children. So when it comes to youth, you are left with around 200 million Africans in the age from 15 to 24. And this is a huge capacity for African continent, because if you imagine that these 200 million are very well educated in what we call the innovative education, I think we're going to top the world. We have our challenges, of course, but to go and to look to the higher education system in Africa, how could we change it to cope with the creativity and innovation and the very rapid pace, the digital transformation, for example, took place, especially in the last 2 years, facing the COVID. I think we have to think and to acknowledge the fourth industrial revolution, knowledge 4.0 and 5.0, and this by appreciating the rapidly change labor market needs. The labor market needs is changing very rapidly and more than ever before. And to present the graduate ready for this changing labor market, I think we have to go into what we call the fourth generation university. And by the fourth generation university, we mean not only education and research and community service, but as well creativity and entrepreneurship, innovation, and so forth. This is why to present to our African community a graduate capable really of competing nationally and globally by skilling, what we call skilling, reskilling, and upskilling, all the time skilling. So how are we going to do that? I think we're going to do that by what we call the innovative education. And what is innovative education? Innovative education is that there is a total paradigm shift from what degree do you have to ask ourselves, what can you do and what can you do effectively? And to prepare our youth and graduates for this, we need at least three new components within our university that were not present before. This is the innovation hubs, and if we think bigger, it will go to the science park. And the innovation hub actually is the innovation arm of the modern education. It's fostering innovation through a series of actions: awareness, capacity building, pre-incubators, incubators, accelerators, by going to the market. Now we have this in the university, in the modern universities. And thanks to the financing bodies, like today we are being hosted, all of us, by the Central Bank of Egypt. It's our strategic partner in Ain Shams University, and they supported us a lot to start our first innovation hub in the scale that we would imagine is the best worldwide and can compete.